Welcome to the Doo Divas Smells Like Money podcast. I'm your host, Suzan Chin-Taylor, CEO and founder of Creative Raven, the firm that helps wastewater industry contractors and manufacturers unlock the power of digital marketing, AI, and PR to boost sales and opportunities. Whether it's through our online marketing and lead generation programs or providing a fully outsourced marketing department, we are passionate about helping businesses in the wastewater and civil infrastructure sectors not just survive, but thrive in today's digital world. Each episode, I'll be bringing you expert tips and strategies to help you grow and succeed. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Doo Divas Smells Like Money podcast. Today, we are visiting internationally with Pedro Ferreira, who is the regional director, or I guess in that part of the world, it's called a country director for Quadrante Compass, and he is an engineer. And today I wanted to bring him onto the show because one, he's done projects internationally, so we'll share about what's going on around the world. But for our first conversation, we're going to be visiting for 2 episodes. We are going to be concentrating on the subject of sustainability. And I know that that's like a big buzzword that's going around. Oh, sustainability of this, sustainability, all these initiatives. And it's a great buzzword and it's a great thought because we all should be. But when we think about it in terms of wastewater projects and engineering, like developing and designing a project as a whole, there's more to it than meets the eye. And there's a deeper meaning behind it when you start thinking about what does it truly mean to design and to build and to implement a sustainable treatment process, or really a sustainable anything? And so I'm going to let Pedro take the stage here because he's had some incredible success with some, I call them low-tech type of innovations using constructed wetlands as a means for sustainable treatment and how all that works. And so now I'm going to turn the floor over to you to share your history and your experience with sustainable projects. So welcome to the show, Pedro.
Well, thank you so much, and nice to meet you once again, and happy to be here. So, as you were mentioning, sustainability isn't just a concept that everyone just wants to put on a paper, so we can sell it out quite easily and just say that we did 1 or 2 things. Sustainability was so much more than that. I always think about sustainability not only as an environmental thing, but also a full cycle project. Let's put it that way. So I'm not going to only going through the part of the constructed wetlands, but also why constructed wetlands could be a good solution, especially here in the Middle East. But it's not only, it can be adaptable to most cases in terms of wastewater treatment plants. Actually, the technology has been it's been around for a couple of decades already,
Right.
but the large implementation of it, or bigger than it's that. It's been here in the Middle East. As a good example, Oman has the biggest, as we speak, of the biggest constructed wetland. And what is a wetland? It's basically what we do to treat wastewater treatment, wastewater at any stage, depending, of course, of the type of wastewater. Not every wastewater can be treated like that. And in those cases, I'm just putting some industrial wastewater, then of course
Right.
we need to have a different approach. But let's go through the most common wastewaters that are the the common wastewater that we have from sewage and in part from industry, and we can even go to organic wastewater, greywater from the oil and gas industry. And yeah, it's the biggest project is it's actually for the oil and gas industry, which makes their ecological footprint quite good in those terms. So what we are doing is basically, instead of making a conventional wastewater treatment plant, that is going to be a project with concrete, and although it's a biological project, but going through all the stages of filtration and aerobic treatment with a big output of energy, let's put it that way, consuming pretty much and taking a long lead time to build it, high capex, high opex, that's all it is. With constructed wetlands, we can definitely mitigate that. Why? Because we're basically re-engineering nature. Just we are choosing the right plants to do all that job for us as we speak. Oh, sometimes I have clients when they ask me about that. I find it interesting that they ask me like, but how much energy do you take for this? And I say, well, none and a lot. Why I say a none? Because actually, when the plants work by themselves, as long as there's a slope and the water passes with the organics, so let's say it will be absorbed. But yes, we are using the sun energy, but that is for free. So actually, that's the whole point. And we have some very good examples here in the Middle East, starting from the big project called Nimar in Oman, which is for oil and gas. We also have on the new recent giga project called the Red Sea project here in Saudi Arabia, and you can use this technology for all kinds of let's say locations as long as you have the space for it. Of course, then there is an output of space that is larger than the usual conventional, but everything else there is not is a no-brainer. And why is it so more sustainable? Because, well, first, when we are using nature on our own behalf, it's always more natural than using materials from any other source. We are just pretty much using an agricultural situation. And why is it more sustainable? Because we actually can train people from the local communities that could be in the operation and management of these systems. So we are binding it all together. So if we are having a project that is environmentally sustainable, but then if it's not good for the communities around, that's not sustainable anymore. And that's where I believe a lot of companies miss the sustainability part. And that's where this sort of technology can give one extra step or more, depending how you look at it, to make sure that this that it's a real sustainability manner that according to the project.
You make a very good point there about sustainability, not just from green and energy and environmentally. However, once you put a plant, when you commission it, put it online, who's going to run it? Who's going to keep it operational? And you just touched on that with these kind of facilities, this is something where you're not going to need those highly technically trained operators. And here in the United States, we'd call them class A or class one. You've got folks, because it's a very simplified process in concert with nature, that people can be taught in the community to do this. And that's what truly makes a sustainable system. Can you can build anything, but can you keep it running?
Actually, it's more easy sometimes to train people that have absolutely no know-how, as they come a lot of times from places that their background is agriculture, because they're basically doing quite the same thing just for a different purpose. Therefore, sometimes we learn more from them than we are teaching. Of course, every time you need someone a bit more senior to confirm that there's stages, there's the engineering and the implementation has to be done by an engineering company, of course. But then, on the long run, the operation and maintenance can be done on a lower scale, and therefore you can use any kind of resource that you want. And it's quite profitable on that. There's more than one model to do this, and even to because you can have a constructed wetland for I would say 300 to 400 cubic meters per hour if you have the space for it, or there are solutions already that are containerized. So, I mean, for 30 to 40 people. a day. So, or even smaller for someone that has a house in the middle of nowhere that you don't want to pick. I always say this, every time I see a sewage truck, there's a potential for a constructed wetland.
Oh, you mean a septic hauler? Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Well, now, what's running through my mind, and I'm sure it may be other folks too. They're probably thinking to themselves, "Wait a minute, wait. We're talking Saudi Arabia. We're talking Oman. We're talking the Middle East. That's desert,
Mhm.
wetlands in a desert. How does that work?"
Actually works better than even on the other places. Why? This I had
Interesting. Okay.
it does. Why it does work better than in other places? Because as it's hotter, the plants actually their evapotranspiration is faster. Therefore, they can regrow themselves and they die, they have cycles, so you increase the amount of cycles. The only thing you can't do, like in any other operation of wastewater, from the moment that you start it, you can't stop it. You get them the sewage, you have to keep them the sewage. They can survive a couple of days without sewage. You can put some plain water like any plant. So again, any person that has ever had a small backyard plantation of anything knows this basic concept, or even a plant at home. So this on a way is all you kind of need to. I'm shorting it up quite a lot, that
Right.
definitely, but the base concept is quite easy to understand, and as it's not complicated. It's just, if I had, instead of on my dishwasher, at the end of my dishwasher, or at the end of my bathroom, instead of having some a pipe to somewhere else, that is the wastewater treatment plant, I would have just a garden, let's say, that would do the job for me. So ultimately, you can think it that way.
Okay. All right. But now, like for cities, you were saying that they have to have a fairly, sizable amount of acreage or footprint. And so to put that in perspective, let's say you've got I'm just thinking of my own hometown. You've got 10,000 people in this small city. So if they were to use constructed wetlands, what would they be needing in terms of acreage to handle the water from a community that size?
Well, it really depends, because I can only advise depending on the landscape, because of the energy output. You have to see if they're, depending if it's in a mountain or not, if they actually can sense it. I had one constructed wetland in Lebanon that was actually quite good, because it was down the mountain. So literally people could just drop it, and there was no pumping. So it was just using
Okay.
gravity. So that's quite easy to do. But now, if everybody's living down and the only space that you have is up, maybe it's not the most favorable condition to put such a project going on. It really depends situation by situation. Nevertheless, the technology keeps on evolving. There's multiple works going on around the world where you can actually make it deeper, therefore decreasing space, so it can be more optimized for cities. Because here, okay, that's the real truth. Here in the Middle East, you have a lot of space, you have a lot of desert, so
Right.
quite the perfect conditions. In places that you have less space, it comes a little bit more as a challenge, but it's not impossible. So I always start by looking at it. For instance, let's say you have a resort that is more far away. There's no connection to the network. You definitely have a better solution there, because you don't have to have any truck picking up from your septic tank. You're already solving the problem by itself. It's a construction and it stays there. And there's some effort to do, but it's more minimum than having to call, and you don't have those issues. Now, for big cities, that really depends. You have to have a lot of space, but you can also do them in specific areas, and it really depends on the master plans that they start doing. Or if I would say, for an old city that has been done for a long, that has been there for a really long time is a bit more complicated, and depending on the outskirts they have. But for new developments, it is a possibility. It is quite a good possibility. If sometimes the clients come and they fear, although I always tell clients, if you go into a good wetland and it's properly built and properly maintained, if you stand inside of it and if it smells anything like a little bit of sewage, don't purchase it, because uh, you're not on the right path. You're working with a company that doesn't know what they're doing, because I can guarantee you can be in the middle of a constructed land and there's no problems whatsoever, either with smell or insects or anything like that. If,
That was going to
of
be
course,
my
it's
next, yeah, that was going to be my next question to you is that how do you handle, you know, odor? Are there odor issues that there is other technology that you have to, incorporate into this to combat going this route? But from what you just said, no. But now, what if, like you were just saying, they've already built one and there are those issues? What can be done to remediate that
oh
after?
well, okay, there are ways to do it. Some involve a little bit more of construction. Example, if you
Okay.
have a big load, you can actually build what would you already have to build for a normal wastewater treatment plant, which is the preliminary treatment, where the odor comes and most of it, where you have the first, let's say, separations, and then from the first separations, you can flow it to a new built constructed wetland, and and you will not have that kind of issue. And you can even use it also, not only for water per se, but also for like dry sludge. It can also be used for dry sludge. It's very effective treatment. That dry sludge, again, and this is why it's also sustainable, can be reused. Uh, that reuse depends really a lot on the legislation of each country. For instance, European Union has more strict regulations, so it's always a little bit more complicated. In other places like in here, you can reuse it. I know that they are even cutting the plants and give it camels to eat because it's perfectly normal here. They do side businesses out of it, so and it's perfectly okay as long as you don't have any industry sending any of
Right.
their
Industrial body.
industrial tools. Exactly. And that's why you still need someone to control the entry of your flow, because in case you have some peak, then you need to be aware. The illegal discharge are always a problem. Therefore, everything that is built a little bit more on the outskirts has easier control. Everything that is built in the middle, you'll know less. And it's a everywhere you go in the world, there's always going to be someone that is going to just drop something on the wrong place. And
Right.
but that's life. And we do have the means to prevent the in case there is such a thing. And this the what I wanted also to go through in terms of sustainability, all the water that it's been purified by this kind of by this technology, a lot of people prefer to take all the organics out. But if you are actually reusing it for irrigation, uh, I don't mind on my case to leave, and I advise clients on that, to leave a little bit of the organic, because it's actually good for for their irrigation systems, and you can reuse it in any sort of plantation of from for food, for plants. Most of it, it's as an example, this Red Sea project reuses the water from the sewage for they have a lot of trees, they have the hotels with all the grass and all the newly plants, and they reuse the same water, so a closed cycle. So they don't have to desalinate so much water because there's no other source of water over there. So they keep on just running it, and you can and your input, it's going to be way smaller than any other project.
Wow. Well, this has been really eye-opening. And so, you've had success in some really interesting areas. So for anybody that is listening that is interested in maybe learning more about what your firm does and the construction and design of these constructed wetlands and how they can be utilized, how can they get in touch with you and learn more?
So my company is based in Portugal slash Spain as we speak. They can, I don't know, they can always get in touch with me via my LinkedIn. It's the easiest, most effective social network that I actually do use. So at any moment, I'm always available on LinkedIn. And we look, the company that I'm working now, we have a portfolio of everything, not only water. Water is my technical expertise, and but we look at about a little bit about everything from airports to data centers. But of course, my passion is, and I push it a little bit to the water and sustainability systems, the and implementation on the market that I am more acquainted with, which is the Middle East, as I've been here for a decade already, including not only Saudi Arabia, but also Oman and also the Emirates, and several Emirates because they work a little bit different from each others. And and I do advise it not only for this kind of technology that I just spoke, as this is the one of the ones that I'm very comfortable with, but also because due to the way that the whole system is put it out here in terms of the programs like Vision 2030 for Saudi Arabia and other programs for the UAE and Oman, where new technologies are very well welcomed, and you can test ground partially, at least here, as the off takers are pretty open to new ideas, to new everything that comes as new. Let's put it that way. There's a reason that why President Trump came here for his first trip. It went mainly on AI and data centers for that, but that is like the one of the ways to go and everything. But it looks the same for the other types of technologies. And it is an open market. It's a competitive market, though, of course, and but it is a good ground for new technologies, that's for sure. Projects like NEOM are looking to hydrogen as well on a big scale, and here everything is on a big scale. So
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that
so
because I often, there's so many good startup technology companies that are, in the wastewater space, in the water space, and they often kind of meet with, resistance of getting pilots and whatnot especially in North America, there's a little bit of a risk aversion. And it's nice to hear that, if you have the inkling that to maybe take advantage of some of these other international markets, like the Middle East, because if they have these programs where they're very open and looking to invite new innovation to take a look at it for proof of concept or just say, hey, let's try this. Let's see what's new out there. And it may give a lot of companies, that leg up and that start to really get that product out in the market and solve issues because, water, wastewater, it's a global issue. It's not just,
absolutely.
water is a precious commodity. And so thank you for bringing that up in those opportunities. And so, I really want to thank you for, coming and sharing your experience about this. What I think it's a really unique and interesting approach to wastewater treatment that maybe we need to look at it if we have, like you were saying, if we have the right geographic landscape. It's not going to be the silver bullet for everything, but if you can, it may be something to put it on the table as a possibility.
Absolutely. And
Oh,
I invite everyone because that there's a lot of misconceptions, less and less by the day, of the Middle East that is more closed. Is actually not. Actually, it's pretty open, uh, gets more open by the day, and it's a melting pot not only of people but also of new technologies, and a great place to be as an engineer, as put it, I would say that way.
wow. All right. Well, Pedro, thank you so much for coming on the show. Listeners, reach out to him, check out his company. The website will be in the show notes. and just, explore the possibilities. I think there's so many great ideas that are happening all around the world for our industry, and we need to tap them because then we all win. And so thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. And until next time, keep it flowing. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you're ready to take your marketing to the next level and start increasing sales and opportunities for your business, reach out to us at Creative Raven. We're here to help you thrive in the digital landscape. Visit creativeraven.com or click the link in the show notes below to schedule a call and learn how we can support your growth. If you enjoyed the insights on today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so you'll never miss an update. Until next time, keep growing and keep it flowing.